Hey guys, and welcome back to my kitchen. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a paleo risotto. Paleo. Now, the reason this is paleo is because we're not using any grains. So if you are someone that follows the paleo diet and lifestyle, you basically omit all grains and dairy, and you predominantly have a lot of plant food with some meat. Now, the reason I've called this a paleo risotto is because there's no rice in it, there's no cream in it, and therefore it makes it gut friendly and gut healthy. And for me, one of the things I absolutely love in winter is a warm bowl of risotto. It's just so warming and enjoyable. But unfortunately, if you are trying to heal and seal your gut, omitting a lot of grains and starchy foods is a really good idea because it is really heavy and hard on the gut, and we want to avoid that. Cauliflower is the most amazing vegetable because it's so versatile, and what we're going to do is use cauliflower rice instead of actually using a risotto rice, which is the arborio rice, and it's surprisingly good. Like, it's very tasty, it's not starchy, it's very light, and it is just a delicious recipe. So highly recommend you try it. And you know, if you are someone that is trying to heal and seal your gut, you don't have to include cheese, but I do usually put a very light sprinkling of cheese on top. Just adds a little bit of a salty kind of flavor, but you can completely omit it if it is not something for you.
So first things first, I like to use about 1/4 of a head of broccoli and 1/4 of a head of cauliflower, and we're just going to roughly chop those because they're going to be grated into a rice consistency, which is going to be the base for our risotto. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rice my cauliflower and my broccoli. Now I'm using a food processor because it has a grating attachment to it. Now you can use a hand grater, you can use just the food processor itself and just pulse it to get that consistency, or you can just finely chop it to get, again, that rice consistency. So just use whatever you have available. So we're going to use 2 cloves, maybe 3 cloves of garlic, and I'm going to mince those up. And we're also going to use half a red onion. Now I'm using a red onion because that's what I have on hand. Now, the more colourful the vegetable, generally the better it is for you. So your red onion has, you know, a higher antioxidant content to it. That's why I'm using it. But I feel like it doesn't really change the flavour at all. It's pretty much just what I had available. So you can use white onion, brown onion, spring onions, but I tend to have red onions all the time. Now we just want to chop up mushrooms and set those aside. And here I'm using half a zucchini. Now this is a pretty standard size zucchini. There is no real measurement, but yeah, just about half a zucchini. Now I'm using a mandolin to grate it into those nice fine strips, but you can also just chop it into chunks as well. So you can see we have a nice array of vegetables. This risotto is paleo, it has no grains in it, so you're getting a lot of vegetables. So first things first. So now what we want to do is we want to set up a saucepan and a saute pan. In the saucepan you want to boil 1 cup of the rice cauliflower mixture until it's boiled. In the other pan you want to put a glug of olive oil, and we're going to soften the onion and the garlic. Now once that is translucent, you want to add your mushrooms and cook those through. And we're just going to let those sweat it out before we add the broccoli and the cauliflower rice. So once that's all mixed together, make sure you give it a really, really nice mix so all of the flavours are combined together. Now normally I add a crack of salt and pepper here. And don't ask me why I'm using tongs. I guess I just had them on hand and they're just what I'm using today. So now we want to add 1 cup of bone broth. Now I'm using bone broth because that's what I had available. You can use chicken broth, you can use just normal stock, but we want to really add the gut healing properties to it, and your bone broth has a nice amount of collagen and also amino acids and protein. So you want to cover that and let that cook for about 10 minutes. So now we want to strain the boiled cauliflower, and we're going to add this to a food processor. So by adding it to the food processor, we're going to use half a cup of coconut milk and 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. Now if you don't have any nutritional yeast, you can use a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. It just adds to the depth of flavour. Nutritional yeast has a little bit of a cheesy kind of flavour to it without the dairy. And I also add a splash of water here as well. So that wasn't actually half a cup, it was just a splash. And of course, salt and pepper. And then we're just going to blend that up to a really smooth consistency. So kind of over blend it, and also like taste the texture before you finish blending it, just to make sure it's really nice and creamy. And you can also adjust the flavours if you feel it needs a little bit more salt or pepper. So this has been boiling for about 10 minutes. So we're going to add our blended cauliflower mixture. And then we're going to continue cooking that for another 10 to 15 minutes with the lid off. So we're just going to reduce the sauce a little bit. Again, don't ask me why I'm using tongs here. I do have a spoon. Turn it on to low, and then we want to cook that for another 10 to 15 minutes. Now, once that is done, you want to add your zucchini. So the reason we add the zucchini last is because I like to keep that firm texture. When zucchini is cooked too long, it goes really soggy, and I find that kind of unpleasant. Now, last but not least, we want to chop about a handful of either basil or parsley. Add that. And also we're going to add about 2 decent handfuls of spinach and let that wilt. And then we're pretty much ready to serve. Alright, so there we have it. We are ready to serve now that the spinach is all wilted. This does serve 4 people, and I do find to make it a more filling meal, I like to add chicken. I like to use diced chicken thighs, chicken breast. This works really well with a little bit of bacon, and also the white flesh fish works so lovely with this to make it a more whole food meal. So to finish it off, I like to put a little bit of Parmesan. I don't always have Parmesan, but it is amazing. It adds this beautiful depth of flavour. So if you can tolerate dairy, yeah, it's just a really nice way to finish the meal.
So if you do like this video, please give us a thumbs up, it does help. And also subscribe if you want more videos like this. And until next time, be well, my friends.